Folks, this is McSquirgle here, and today I'm doing a collection video where I'm going to be showing you guys my entire collection of knives as it sits currently. I'm going to divide this video sort of into three parts here. The first part is going to be my modern folding knives, stuff with locking mechanisms and pocket clips, things like that. The second part is going to be non-locking folding knives, stuff like slip joints, traditional folding knives, things like that. And the final and third part is going to be my fixed blade collection. So for the moderns, the first section here, the first group of knives we're going to be looking at is my Spyderco collection. And that's because I have more of them than anything else, and because I like them a whole lot. So I'm going to put them first and foremost here and give you guys an idea of my collection, my tastes. So without any further ado, let's take a look here at my Spyderco Delica. The Spyderco Delica was one of the very first knives I ever... Well, this is the Delica 4 Lightweight, by the way. It was one of the very first knives I ever bought when I was first getting into knife enthusiasm. I bought it along with a Native 5 Lightweight. And when they got here, I liked them, but I realized I wasn't quite as excited about them as I thought I should be. I don't think I really got it at the time. I think I wanted something a little flashier, a little cooler, a little more modern, I guess. The whole lockback mechanism just didn't do it for me then. But years later now, I've kind of come around back to it, and it's now one of my favorite knives. Especially this version here with K390, which is one of my favorite tool steels. This stuff just doesn't quit, and it's relatively easy to maintain. I'm a big fan of K390 and a big fan of the Delica 4 Lightweight now. Ergonomics are great. The bi-directional texturing that Spyderco does is really great. Yeah, it's one of my favorites now. I've sort of customized this a little bit. It has a titanium backspacer, which I like the weight that it adds to the Delica 4 Lightweight, and it makes it feel just a little bit more robust. I've also put these black-coated this black-coated hardware on it. Yeah. Next thing we'll look at is a Native 5. As I said, the very first two knives I bought when I was getting into knife enthusiasm was a Delica 4 Lightweight and a Native 5 Lightweight. And I didn't get either of them, really. I don't think I quite knew... I didn't understand how good they were at the time. But I will say this about the Native 5. The G10 versions of the Native 5, like this version is right here, in my opinion, are a whole world better than the Native 5 Lightweight, in my opinion. They just feel a lot more robust, a lot more premium. They have phosphor bronze washers. It's a whole different world than the Native 5 Lightweight, in my opinion. This is the Knife Center exclusive version. It came with this black-coated DLC crewwear blade and a smooth black G10 scales. I put these titanium RGT scales on it. And titanium Lynch Northwest clip. It's one of my favorite knives of all time, along with the Delica 4 Lightweight. Next, we're going to look at my PM2. And when I first sold these knives, when I was first getting into knife enthusiasm, the knife that I bought with that money was this knife here, this Maximate PM2. Came with gray scales, gray G10 scales. I have had this knife for a very long time now. It's one of my favorites, still to this day. So in a way, I kind of don't regret selling them because they did lead me to this knife. And it's stuck around and sort of influenced my collecting since then. It's been this particular PM2 here has been through a lot of different scale options. I've had Meton Boss, Flightanium, oh man, other knife scales. Finally, I landed on these AWT scales. This is the blue titanium Cerakote colorway from AWT, which is Applied Weapons Tech, and these bronze anodized titanium screws, this hardware set. And I think this clip is from RGT, Rips Garage Tech. It's one of my favorites. In fact, it is the oldest surviving knife in my collection. It's survived all the purges. Action's fantastic. The centering is still right down the middle. And I use this knife too. I've sharpened it several times. Fantastic knife. The next knife I'm gonna show you guys is sort of a sentimental knife. This is a Delica 4 with the Packawood scales. This is a Knife Center exclusive with the Packawood and the laminated HAP 40 steel. So I had this knife for a couple months, and then I sold it, actually. I let it go. Not for any particular reason, not because I didn't like it. I actually like this probably even more than the Native 5, or I'm sorry, than the Delica 4 lightweight, because it has these steel liners, and it makes it more robust. But I made a poor decision, and I sold it, and I regretted it. And I ended up hunting it down about a year later after I sold it, and I bought it back and got it back in the collection. And it's sort of sentimental now. It's like a knife that sort of symbolizes like sort of like my maturity, I guess, or just sort of the knife collector that I've become. I've become the sort of knife collector that loves the Delica, and this is sort of a symbol of that. Next, we're going to look at the Endura. This is the Blade HQ exclusive Endura with CPM M4. CPM M4 is my other favorite steel besides K390. It's a little bit like K390. It's slightly less edge retention, slightly more toughness, but it is also still very easy to maintain, in my opinion. It's very finely grained, sharpens to a very, very, very keen edge. Get the same bidirectional texture patterning that the Delica 4 gets, but it's bigger. I also have a titanium backspacer on this because I like the weight it adds to it. Makes it feel more robust. Yeah, I don't think I didn't think I would ever buy an Endura because it just looked kind of goofy to me for a long time, just how long it is. But you know, when you get this in hand, you really come to appreciate the extra length that you get on the blade. In some cases, I think I kind of prefer the Endura to the Delica. For actual work purposes, maybe. But if it's just everyday carry, you know, I'll probably reach for my Delica before this. I still love the Endura, though. And I love having it in this M4 steel. Next, we'll look at another Endura. This is the VG10 with the flat saber grind with the stainless steel handles. Spyderco does a lot of these stainless steel handled versions of their knives. They're actually pretty nice. Sort of a satin, sort of brushed finish that you get on them. It's usually thinner than the FRN versions. They're pretty heavy. They're more robust. And if you do a lot of work with them, they'll sort of develop a character of their own with all the patina and wear that you'll put on the scales. I'm pretty excited to see how this looks after some time. Next, we're going to look at this Spyderco Military. The Spyderco Military is another knife that I didn't think I would ever buy, much like the Endura, because it was so big. But it's a knife that I've really grown to love. It's a knife. Spyderco's been making this knife for a pretty long time. And they've really refined it. They've gotten this thing down pretty darn well. It's got maybe some antiquated features with the tip down only carry. I think a lot of people don't like that. They probably would prefer a compression lock to the liner lock, which they've addressed that in the new Military 2. But in all honesty, I like the Military 1 probably better, because it's just so well done. The liner lock is perfect. You get great action from this thing. Very robust. Very cool. CPM S30V stainless steel, which is a good steel. I love the Military. That's not going anywhere. Next, we're going to look at my Spyderco Stretch 2 XL. This is another knife I really love. This is in CPM Crewwear with gray G10 and the exposed steel liners. This thing is awesome. Much like the Endura and the Military, it's very big. But I love carrying it. I love the ergonomics of it. It's up there. It is perhaps my favorite Spyderco knife right now. I've done a couple of videos on it. I love the Stretch 2 XL. Next, let's look at my Native Chief. This is in CPM Spy 27, which is Spyderco's proprietary powder metallurgy stainless steel that they developed with Crucible. This is a good knife. Much like the Native 5 with G10, this comes with G10. It's pretty much exactly the same as the Native 5, but, bigger. I like it. Maybe not for everybody, but I'm a big enough fan of the Native 5 and G10 that I thought I would pick up one of these, and I'm glad to have it. Let's maybe fix this a little. Hopefully that's not worse. Actually, let's put them up here so we can have more room. Next, let's look at the Spyderco Stretch. I've been testing this. There's a Stretch in K390. This is the Stretch in VG10. It's much the same as this, except the blade shape. I call this sort of a Skinner blade shape here. But there's a version of the Stretch 2 in K390 that has more of a blade shape like this. I think people love that knife, the K390 version of the Stretch. I recommend it. I've had one before. I ended up selling it in favor of a different knife that I no longer have anymore. I'll probably get a Stretch 2 in K390 again someday. Yeah, the Stretch is awesome. It's the whole Stretch platform, both the regular Stretch 2 and the Stretch 2 XL are probably some of the most ergonomic knives. It's great. Next, I have this here this is called the Man Bug. I had this on my keys for a long time, until maybe a year ago I took it off, and it's sort of been sitting around ever since then, but it is much like the Delica, but smaller, and without a pocket clip. Also in K390. You can get pretty much the whole series of the Seki City backlocks that Spyderco does in K390, all the way down from the Ladybug, which is a little smaller than this, all the way up through the Police 4, which is the biggest, I believe. And the final Spyderco we're going to be looking at is my Spyderco Astute. This is part of Spyderco's Value series of knives. They're produced in China, but fairly full featured with steel liners, pocket clip, thin geometry, very slicey with the opening hole, but with a liner lock instead of the compression lock or back lock that Spyderco usually is known for. I adore this knife. It really surprised the heck out of me. I didn't expect a whole lot out of the Value series from Spyderco until a friend of mine let me handle his Tenacious, who is Butt Great Blades, by the way. He's a great dude. Check out his channel. He lent me his Tenacious, and that convinced me that I should try stuff from the Value series. And I ended up landing on this. And I don't regret it at all. It's a fantastic knife. I have a review on my channel about it if you guys want to check it out. 8CR13 MOV performs very well with this geometry, and I would assume a good heat treat. Fantastic knife. I'll probably end up with the Tenacious sooner than later, eventually too. All right, so I'm going to take all these down, and I'll set up the next series of knives in the modern folding knife collection. Okay, so as I've said, that pretty much concludes the Spyderco collection. Now we're moving on to, this is my Benchmade Bailout. I'm not a huge fan of Benchmade. I know a lot of people nowadays are pretty unsatisfied with what Benchmade's doing with their prices, and sort of the lack of ingenuity, the lack of new thoughts and new ideas from Benchmade. It just sort of seems a lot of the things that they're coming out with nowadays are just kind of overpriced and not really that interesting or exciting. But I love this knife. The Benchmade Bailout is the one Benchmade knife in my collection. And I freaking adore this thing. I mean, I get how people don't like Benchmade. I get it. I do. And I'm kind of sad for them. I'd like to see them do some cool things, some new stuff. But I really love this knife, man. It's so useful. I love the CPM M4. As you guys know, it's one of my favorite steels. It sharpens up great, holds an edge really well. It's tough stuff. I love this Tanto. I'm not really a Tanto guy, but I love using this knife for sort of like scraping tasks. I'll use it like this to like scrape off stickers or whatever that my kids put on dressers or whatever. I've and I love the shape of the handle. It's very ergonomic. I love this little sort of guard section, how it comes up here in sort of like a hump here. The crossbar lock action is great. I'm not like a Benchmade fanboy or anything because I only have the one, but I love this knife. This one has AWT scales on it, much like my PM2 with this. I think it's anodized black and a Lynch Northwest titanium clip. Yeah, that is my Bailout. Next, we'll look at, this is the Mini Ritter, the Hogue Doug Ritter Mini Ritter RSK MK1 G2 Mini in Magna Cut. It's a crossbar lock, G10 scales with this cool texture pattern. It's a great knife. The Mini, in my opinion, is just a little on the small side. I wish it was a little bigger. I don't have like humongous hands or anything like that, but it doesn't fit my hand perfectly well. It just gets a little narrow down here. So sometimes it doesn't really feel right. It doesn't feel as secure as I'd like it to be. But I will say I've had the full size Doug Ritter Hogue Ritter before, and that's a little too big. So it's kind of funny. I think the Ritter knives are just kind of not for me. I guess I kind of lean towards the mini if I have to choose one, and I do like it. It's a fantastic knife. They just kind of have that problem, and that goes for the Benchmade Griptilian as well, which is basically the same thing as this. They're shaped exactly the same. They just have different materials. The large one's too big there, and the small one's a little too small. But your mileage may vary, as they say. It doesn't work super well for me, but it may work for you. Next, we're going to look at this. This is my ZT0044, which is a new knife from Zero Tolerance. This is in CPMS 45VN. It is a titanium button lock flipper. This is such an awesome knife. It sort of represents like what ZT and Kershaw are doing, because ZT and Kershaw are sort of the same. ZT is sort of the premium tier, and Kershaw is sort of the mid to budget tier. I think they're doing awesome things. I really love this knife. It's slicey, it's gorgeous, very broad blade. I love the belly. I love the tip, the swedge, the shape of the handle. I even like the pocket clip. Maybe it's a little underwhelming. I think a lot of people would have preferred like a milled titanium clip or something like that. But this doesn't bother me at all. It's very functional. Yeah, I no notes. I love this knife. One of my favorite things about it is this sort of, the button will sort of sing when you open it. Maybe you can hear that, maybe not. I can hear it here. It's beautiful. I'd love to get some work done on this eventually, like, just in anodizing or something. I'd like maybe like a very high voltage green, something like that. Love this knife, the ZT0044 button lock flipper. Next we'll look at, this is my Kershaw Iridium Launch Iridium. This is in MagnaCut. It's an auto, made in USA from Kershaw. Kershaw does the Iridium with a crossbar lock. Those are made in China, but that's a very popular knife, so Kershaw decided to do an auto version and make it in the United States. And I was very excited to get one. Very good action. Maybe not quite as strong as a ProTech, but absolutely acceptable. Very good stuff. The mark of a good auto is if it will always go back into the open position if you open it, because some will only make it, this far. They won't go all the way into the locking position. This one will always lock up. So it's a good strong spring. Very good lockup. Absolutely no movement. Good shape. Chamfering of the handle. Good basic pocket clip. Deep carry. Very good knife. Love the size of it. About a 3.4 inch blade, I think. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. A little more than 3.5, around 3.5 inches. Good knife. Next, we'll look at kind of an old knife. This is my Kershaw Blackout. It is an assisted knife, hollow grind, 14C28N, made in USA. Canonian design. This is discontinued. Liner lock. It's a great knife. I got this on eBay for a good price because it's sort of been maybe misused a little bit, but it's sharpened up beautifully. Maybe the blade's just a little bit bent at the tip. At the very tip there, you might be able to see that. Doesn't bother me. It's a cool piece of history. I kind of hope that Kershaw brings it back. Maybe it doesn't have to be assisted. Maybe it can be with a crossbar lock. Non-assisted. Next we'll see here, this is my Piranha P1 pocket, which is an auto side opening automatic. Very fast action here compared to the Iridium. Yeah. Cool pocket clip. Pretty sure that's titanium. Looks quite a bit like a Chris Reeve pocket clip. This is also made in Idaho. I don't think Chris Reeve is making them, but it is interesting that they do have a Chris Reeve pocket clip, or what appears to be a Chris Reeve pocket clip. This is in 154 cm with a cool high polished blade. You can sort of see me there. Yeah, there's no pivot hardware, so in order to adjust anything, you have to take the whole thing apart. But, you know, I've not needed to adjust anything. I've got good centering here. Fantastic action. It's a cool knife. Okay, next we will look at, this is the Buck 112. I forget what it is. It's the 112 Pro, I think. Oh, yeah, it's TRX, 112 TRX, meaning it has Torx construction, because they used to make a 112 with G10 scales like this, but it was pinned construction, and none of it was adjustable. And Buck heard people that wished that they could get this with Torx construction so that they could adjust it, take it apart, and they did that. They re-released it as the TRX, and it's in CPMS 30V, the very slicey hollow grind. I like Buck a lot because they use this hollow grind. It's a great cutter, and their S30V is good stuff. It's not poorly done at all, especially with geometry like this. Good pocket clip, deep carry, lock back. Can you guys tell that I like lockbacks yet? Next, this is the Buck Bantam. Also, good hollow grind, USA made. This is 420HC stainless steel, which is, you know, Buck's like basic stuff. It's good. They for 420HC, they get good performance out of it. If you're going to get a knife in 420HC, you should probably get it in Buck because they do it the best. That is true. It's a tip down only pocket clip. But, you know, this knife is only $20 last I checked. Maybe it's $30 now. But it's very, very affordable. If you're looking for a USA made knife under, you know, $50, $40 with a pocket clip, you know, that's relatively modern, this is the way to go, in my opinion. I don't think it gets much better than this, unless you want to look at slip joints or, you know, stuff not made in the United States. This is my Buck, I forget what this is called, the Rush. The Buck Rush, which is the 290. Good hollow grind, 420HC, very slicey. It's a cool looking knife, man. It's aluminum scales, tip down carry pocket clip. You know, this is discontinued. They don't make it anymore. It's assisted. But I've always really loved having this thing. I think it's cool. I like Buck, so I'll keep this around. I don't think people like this safety here. They think it kind of looks like it would hurt your palm. And yeah, it might. You're not wrong about that. You kind of have to love Buck, and you have to love this knife in order to really want to carry it, I think. Especially nowadays with how many more comfortable knives come in. Next here, we're going to look at my Almar Eagle Ultralight. This is black micarta scales, pinned construction, pocket clip, AUS 8 blade steel. Very, very slicey. I've tested this thing with a Sissel rope edge retention test. This thing cuts for a long time and cuts very well too with this very, very thin blade. When AUS 8 is done well, AUS 8, excuse me, is done well with good geometry, it can cut as well, probably better than you think. This is made in Japan by Moki, or was made in Japan by Moki anyway. You can't buy these anymore at retailers. These are long gone, which is a shame, in my opinion. Good centering. This thing was made so darn well. Beautiful. Okay, next here, let's look at, this is a newer knife. This is the Carbon Tidbit. It is a frame lock flipper from Carbon. Carbon is a company that Ken Onion from, Kershaw, from the good old days of Kershaw. He started his own company called Carbon, and they're making all sorts of cool stuff nowadays. They have a new knife called the Smoke Show, which is absolutely gorgeous. They're winning awards, or Ken Onion is winning awards for designing these great knives, and they're making knives mostly in China from different factories like Reich and Riot, places like that. I think they have a design that's manufactured by Wii right now. I can't remember the name of all of them, but go check out the Carbon website. They have a different knife that's made by a different factory all over China. This one, however, is made in Taiwan. It has steel scales with a steel frame lock, cool pocket clip, and this is N690 blade steel. Comes down to a pretty thin edge. Very slim carry, but awesome action. I really like this thing. I like sort of the little details about it here. Sort of kind of look at the way everything is shaped. How the lip around this hardware here comes out a little bit. It just looks very cool. I really enjoy looking at it. That's the Carbon Tidbit. Okay, next. This is a new knife as well. This is the CJRB Maximal. This is a design from David C. Anderson from Knife Center. Knife Center is the retailer that I use the most. I like Knife Center a lot because of their YouTube channel. Their YouTube channel, run by David C. Anderson, is just the best. He is like a wealth of information. He's just a solid, cool, good dude. I don't miss a video. They're awesome. And when this knife came out, I knew I was going to buy one because, the guy knows what he's talking about. The guy has handled so many different knives, and I've learned so much from him. And it's a great knife. Now that I have it in hand, it's fantastic. It is much like the Mini Ritter here in size, but you get much bigger handle. This is much better for my hand, in my opinion, than this little narrow section that you get at the back of the Mini Ritter here. Crossbar lock, very thin, very slicey blade. This is CJRB's new ARSF2, which is a spray formed steel, sort of supposed to be something like 154 cm, but you should get, finer grain structure, slightly more toughness than 154 cm. Beautiful knife. I'm glad I got the Knife Center exclusive version with the carbon fiber. Really glad to have that. Next, we'll look here at, this is the NAFS Lander 1. And this is in 14C28N with this black finished 14C28N blade. This is manufactured by QSP, but the design is from Ben Peterson, who is who most people probably know from Blade HQ back in the day. But he struck out on his own to make his own company, make his own knife product company, where he designs knives and has them made all over the world. Yeah, he's my other favorite knife influencer besides David C. Anderson here. Lastly, here we will look at this guy. This is the Ozark Trail. You guys probably remember pretty recently here all the uproar over the Walmart knives that were coming out with crossbar locks and decent action. Yeah, it's pretty good, man. I don't know. I wouldn't really trust using it hard or anything. $5. So, yeah. Cool little hollow grind. It does not look bad for $5 at all. But yeah, I've got one, so there it is. Okay, so that concludes my modern folding knife collection. The stuff with pocket clips. Actually, I take that back. There's a couple more things here. Here. Hang on. Okay. So first we're going to look at this one here. This is the Ka-Bar Dozier. Bob Dozier is a prolific knife designer. His designs are very well known. This is, Ka-Bar manufactured this in Taiwan. It's an AUS-8 steel, which, can be done very well, like this knife sort of proved for me anyway. I haven't tested this really hard, but this is like a $20 knife. I think for $20, it's fantastic. It's really good for that price. If you don't mind a lockback, if you don't mind AUS-8 and FRN scales, gosh, you really can't beat it for $20. Next here is this is the Ontario Ice Wraith, which is also an AUS-8, also made in Taiwan, I think. Yep, it says Taiwan there. Another lockback, very cheap. I think this was like $16 or something like that. But, less good fitment than the Bob Dozier, Ka-Bar Dozier there. The centering is not right. But the blade is very cool. It's not quite as thin as I would prefer, but gosh, for $16, like getting a knife like this it's cool, man. Good to throw in your glove compartment in your car, maybe a pack or something like that. Good to have a good stainless steel blade, just in case. Next, we will look at this. Here is my Moki. Man, I don't even remember what this is called, but it's made by Moki. I think it's called a Coupe. No, it's called the Zephyr. I'm sorry, yeah, this is called the Zephyr. It has about a just under 3-inch blade. Yeah, with about just under 2.5 inches of cutting edge. Injection molded scales. Good pocket clip. This is a hollow grind AUS-8 blade steel made in Japan by Moki, which is one of my favorite knife manufacturers. They made this Almar Eagle here, which is one of my favorite knives. Moki is awesome. This is one of their less expensive folding knives that they make, but it's still very good. The way the shape of the handle is really good in your hands. The sliciness of the hollow ground blade here is fantastic. Like, in a way, this is kind of like a Delica with the amount of cutting edge that you get and the materials at use here. It's just done really well for being, you know, like an affordable knife. What is supposed to be an affordable knife, folding knife. I'll stop there about that. I could talk about that even more. Next is the Boker. I don't remember what this is called. Boker Atlas. Atlas, that's right. Comes with a pocket clip and this folded over steel construction. As you can see, like the scale, it's folds over the spine here, comes all across. So it's kind of like a one piece. You could sort of call it like an integral. You know, it's not integral in the sense that most of us know or come to think of for integral, you know, folding knives with like a single piece of titanium that's been milled out. No, this is just folded over steel. It has 12C27 blade steel. There is no lock. It is just a slip joint mechanism here. But it's very good. Comes down to a decently thin edge. 12C27 steel, which is supposed to be probably something like 428C, maybe slightly more complex than that. But that's the sort of level of performance you can expect out of 12C27. It's a cool knife. I got it for free from Blade HQ. I made an order from Blade HQ, and they sent me this knife along with it for free. I like having it. It's cool. Okay, yeah, so that pretty much concludes my modern folding knife collection. So I'm going to go ahead and move these off of the table and start talking about my slip joint folding knives now. Okay, so I've cleared all the modern folding knives off the table. Now we're going to start talking about slip joints here. And first, I will show you my Victorinox Ranger. The Victorinox Ranger is the knife from Victorinox. It's a Swiss Army knife, but this one is like the biggest one. It's kind of got everything. It's got the saw blade and the metal saw file tool. It also has the scissors, big scissors. It has a small pen blade, full-size blade, and your opening tool, opening layer here, which is the bottle opener slash flathead and wire stripper. And it has the can opener here with the small flathead. On the other side, you have a corkscrew and a few other tools here, like this is a it's like a hook for carrying things. You can, I forget what, I think they call it a parcel hook. There we go. And a few other tools like a reamer or a awl, among a couple other types of tools here. I forget what they call these, but those tools there. Yeah, so the Ranger is like, it's kind of the tool from the Swiss Army knife tool from Victorinox that kind of has everything. It's really packed pretty thick. I like carrying this. I tend to carry it on something like this. This is a paracord with a diamond knot, and I'll just sort of clip this onto here, onto the key ring on the, and then I'll tie this around my belt loop or something, and then it'll just sort of hang down into my pocket like that. And then when I need to use it, I'll take it off of this little clip there, and then I can, you know, get out whatever tool that I need and then put it back when I'm done and put it back on my pocket. Put it back in my pocket. I like carrying them. This is kind of big for most people, I would assume. But, you know, it doesn't really bother me. I like the functionality of this. I think the slip joint pocket knives, you know, carrying slip joint pocket knives is kind of like a romantic idea, right? I think a lot of people really fall in love with the look of carrying something like a case or a Great Eastern cutlery or something in their pocket alongside a primary knife. But I've really just come to find that it's just kind of, I use my primary knife for just about everything. And a slip joint, like a standard slip joint with just a couple extra blades, just is not really as useful as it seems. However, a Swiss Army knife like this, I don't have to make any excuses for, because there's tons of tools in here. I find ways to use them every day pretty much. One of my favorite tools in one of these, in a Swiss Army knife, is the can opener tool. I think a lot of people are probably thinking, like, why do you need a can opener tool? Like, really? But I don't use it for opening cans. I use it for stuff like scraping lottery scratchers, things like that. I like having a scraping tool, and this thing works really well because it's got an edge on it. You know, it's good for scraping stuff. An extra stainless steel blade is nice to have for, you know, when you want to cut an apple or an orange or something like that if you got kids. The saw is useful. I use the saw. The corkscrew, I don't drink wine, you know, I don't open bottles of wine, but I use this for untying knots, you know, things like this, kind of finding my way around knots and pulling them out, which is useful if you have kids whose shoes get, you know, tied up into double knots sometimes. I love having a Swiss Army knife. The next Swiss Army knife I will show you is this Tinker, which I think a lot of people are probably more willing to carry something like this than the Ranger, because it's got less layers to it. There's less tools in it. It's not as thick. This one, instead of the corkscrew here, you get a 3D Phillips driver here. And I forget, I think it's an awl. Yep, you get the awl or reamer tool. And you get the opening layer, which is the can opener and the bottle opener with Phillips head, or I'm sorry, flathead and wire stripper. And then you get the two blades. You get the full-size blade and the small pen blade. Oh yeah, and then you get the toothpick and tweezers. When I don't feel like carrying the Ranger, I'll carry the Tinker here. But I'll carry it the same way with the paracord clipped. Next Victorinox here this is the Pioneer, which is much like the Tinker here, but without the 3D Phillips or the reamer on the other side. There's no tool over here. This has an aluminum cover or scale here. The opening layer with the can opener and flathead and bottle opener, and a single blade, full-size blade. And instead of a secondary blade, it comes with a reamer tool. This is thin. It's thin. They're a little heavier, I think. Yeah, just about the same, really. But these are durable with these aluminum scales. I carry it in a leather slip like this, and I'll just let that sink to the bottom of my pocket. And this is a Fisher Space Pen. This is the Hitch and Timber leather slip for the Pioneer. Next, this is the Victorinox Cadet. This one was on my keys until recently, so it's kind of beat up, but it's got the ALOX aluminum scales. And this has the full-size blade, the can opener tool, and the bottle opener tool. And lastly, instead of a secondary blade, it has it's a nail filing tool. No tools on the other side here. The Cadet is slightly smaller than these others. These are all 91 millimeters, and then the Cadet is, I think that's 85 millimeters, so slightly smaller. And then there's an even smaller size, which is the classic SD. I think those are 58 millimeters, something like that. Lastly here, for my Victorinox collection, this is the Evolution. I don't remember what it's called. It's the Evo something or other. It's a lot like a Tinker, the tool set on the Tinker. But instead of a secondary blade, it has a nail file tool. And it's about the same size as the Tinker. Is it? That's actually just a tiny bit smaller than the Tinker, I guess. Okay, that is my Victorinox collection. Let's move these out of the way. All right, next we will look at my collection of case knives. This is the Case Copperhead. This was only produced for about a year by Case. I think it was 2021. Yeah, 2021. This is in the CV steel, which is chrome vanadium. Yeah, CV steel. Case no longer uses the CV steel anymore. They switched to 1095, which they call their CS carbon steel now. So Case, has a carbon steel and then the True Sharp, which is their stainless steel. They used to use CV instead of the CS. I tend to prefer the CV steel over the CS. It's just a little bit more complex than CS, than the 1095. But anyway, this knife is fantastic. The things that I look for in a good traditional slip joint pocket knife are these things. I want to see good centering. I want to see, no gaps, good transitions between the bolsters and the cover and the shield or the escutcheon. I want to see, as minimal gaps between the brass liners and the back springs. And finally, I want to see flush back spring with the spine of the blade. I want that to be as flush as possible. If it does all of those things, it's a good slip joint. It's a well-made, good fit and finish traditional pocket knife, in my opinion. This one is my favorite from Case. It's a fantastic knife, the Case Copperhead. It's a good shape. I love the clip point blade with the hollow grind here and the CV steel. This stuff sharpens very nicely. I have a good, half spring or half stop. I'm sorry. So this is the open position, half stop position, closed, and then it has this pen blade here. This is it in the half stop position and the open position. I wish Case made these for more than just 1 year, because it's my favorite pattern from Case by a lot. Fantastic knife. Next, I will show my case Stockman. This is in jigged bone. I think it's the amber jigged bone. This is just yellow synthetic, by the way, on the copperhead, which is supposed to be like their affordable option. They're the cheap stuff, but it looks very nice. It's a classic look. Anyway, this is the jigged bone. This one has 3 blades. This one was also made in 2021. Clip point blade here. Then we have a sheep's foot, CV steel here. This is also CV steel, the chrome vanadium, the good stuff, as I like to say, the good carbon steel that Crate Case used to use. And this is a spay blade. Stockman's, you don't really have to care about centering so much on these because, the way that they have to bend the blades out of the way in order to fit all 3 blades into the 2 back springs like that. So centering's not important on the Stockman. But the flush between back spring and spine of the blade is important. Good transitions. Minimal gaps. No cracking of the bone. This is another good one. Another good case knife. Next, we will look at... man, I don't remember what this one's called, but it's a SHOT Show exclusive. It is it's a hawkbill blade. It's beautiful. This one is 2022 CS. This is when they started switching to the carbon steel from the CV steels. This one's good though. Good flushness between the spine of the blade and the back spring. Good transitions. Minimal gapping. No cracking. Shield looks good. And blade is centered. That's a keeper. The last case knife in my collection we'll look at is this. This is a gun stock pattern from Case with this very cool script shield. Gorgeous. No cracking of the bone. Good transitions. No gaps. Good red color of the bone and good centering of both blades. There's no half stop with this one. The tank stamp is nice. I think this must be from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think this is 95. It might be 85. No, it might be. I think it's 95. Yeah, 1995. Or wait, that might be 2005. I'll have to look at the box again. I can't remember, but it's pretty old. I found it in a local like retail store that sells like fishing gear and stuff like that. I just kind of walked in and I saw it on the shelf and I bought it because it was perfect. Good centering. This is how I like my traditional knives to look. There's no fit and finish errors with it. Pretty old. I got it for a good price. This is in the stainless steel, the True Sharp stainless, which is much like 420 HC. Yeah, stainless steel. Okay, yeah. So that was the gun stock from Case. Next, we will look at my GEC knives, or the GEC knives that I still have left from back when I was collecting those. I ended up selling off a lot of them because I kind of lost interest in the whole thing. I used to have a bunch of them. GEC is like the finest of USA slip joint traditional manufacturing there is, really. It doesn't get much better for a production traditional slip joint pocket knife than GEC. This is the Sud Buster. with the natural micarta or brown micarta. Carbon steel blades is just 1095. Very nice blade shape. Comes to a thin edge. Yeah, these things are perfect. I don't even need to show you, but the centering is perfect. There's no gaps. Everything's perfect. Yeah, this one has a bottle opener blade with a flathead. And it's kind of like a sod buster blade shape. It's called the Sud Buster here. Get it? Sod Buster, Sud Buster, because it's for opening beer bottles. Gorgeous knife. It's one of the only GEC knives that I have left, along with this guy. This is the Remington Prospector, which is under the Remington brand name, but made by GEC. This thing is perfect. It's a trapper. It's like a heavy trapper. 1095 blades. Very thin, good jigged bone, beautiful bone with this bullet shield here. The centering for both the blades is perfect. No gaps, transition's perfect. And the second blade is this very cool looking Spey blade. Gorgeous. Yeah. Next we will look at some old timers. This is the Old Timer Generational Bruin, which is a lockback. It's not a slip joint, but it is part of a series of knives that I have from Old Timer, because Old Timer started to make knives in the USA again using Baron Son. Baron Son was manufacturing them for them, and I like Baron Son. Baron Son does good work. So I went ahead and bought most of the entire collection from Old Timer that they were from the generational series of Old Timer. It's 1095 blades, jigged bone. Lockback on this one. This one's the Bruin. Good centering. Good transitions. You might find some cracking here. But overall, very good for the price. These were $60 to $70 back when I bought them each. This is the Old Timer Middleman, also from the same series, the generational series made in USA by Baron Son. This is also 1095 blade here. Very good. This one's a slip joint, no lockback here. Very good flush between backspring and the spine of the blade here. This is the clip point blade. Good jigged bone. And then the secondary and third tertiary blades. This is a sheep's foot and a pen blade. I think it's gorgeous. Oh, the only blade that has a half stop is the clip point, the main blade. The other two have no stops. I kind of like that. It's a little on the small side. It's called the Middleman from Old Timer Generational. Next, I will show you the fixed blade from the Old Timer Generational series. This is the Old Timer Generational Sharp Finger. This is just a beautiful knife. I couldn't help myself when these came out. I went ahead and bought them. I do have some chipping on the bone here. I can't remember if I did that myself or if it came like that, though. It might be my fault. These things are awesome. This is like a skinning blade shape. This is the sort of thing you'd want to for skinning game, things like that. 1095 blade, made in USA. Pretty wicked looking. Beautiful. Comes with the leather sheath here. That's the last from the generational series of Old Timer that I have. There is one more knife that they have. It's like a mini trapper. I just haven't gotten around to buying it yet, but they're still around. I'll get one eventually, and then my collection of the Old Timer generational series will be complete at that point. Okay, I'm going to move some stuff around here so I can show you guys the next couple things here. This is a Remington Barlow. This is also made by Bear & Son. Pen blade. And, oops. Clip point. I love a good Barlow. The Barlow is probably one of my favorite traditional knife patterns, besides the Copperhead and the Sodbuster. Barlows are classic. Classy. This one has good flush backspring and spine. Good transitions. Pretty sure this one has good centering. Yep, perfect centering. Good jigged bone. It looks nice. I like Bear & Son. I don't think Bear & Son is a lot of people's favorites. People that like traditional pocket knives, I think maybe kind of poo-poo Bear & Son a little bit, or at least from what I've heard. Honestly, they're one of my... I like them. I like them a whole heck of a lot. And in fact, a lot of times, I kind of prefer them to case in a lot of ways, because I don't know about you guys, but I've bought quite a few case knives that really I was not satisfied with, to say the least. I oftentimes... Not every time, but, more than I would like. I've bought knives from case that ended up with very uncentered or rubbing blades, or just very obvious, just like, not flushness or gaps or cracked covers, things like that. That happens. And that happens sometimes with every knife company that does traditional knives, but... I feel like I've seen it from case more than anywhere else. Anyway, I like Bear & Son. I've got no problem with Bear & Son. This is my Advanced Knife Bro Stump Lifter, which was Advanced Knife Bro's... I'm pretty sure this was his first knife that he did this with QSP. It's a slip joint. It's really nice, actually, for a knife YouTuber to have designed. I can't wait for the next thing that Advanced Knife Bro does. I think next is the Stump Fish, which is it looks a lot like an elephant toe or a sunfish pattern. But this is a gorgeous knife. These are, I think it's 154 cm blades. Very nice, very thin, hollow grind. This is blue micarta with the stump inlay. These are really nice. Second tool is a bottle opener. Cap lifter. Very good snap. Excellent walk and talk. QSP does really good slip joints, by the way. They have a whole series of slip joint pocket knives like the Hedgehog. Man, I can't remember the name of all of them right now, but they do other collabs with other designers too. If you want a good slip joint from like, made in China, go for the ones made by QSP, in my opinion. Rough Riders are cool and stuff. They're very, very affordable. Yeah. I tend to really like the stuff that QSP's doing with their slip joints. Yeah, that is it for my traditional knife slip joint collection. So I'm going to go ahead and move them off, and then we'll talk about fixed blades now. Okay, so now we're getting into the fixed blades. And just real quick, I am going to show you guys my collection of Mora knives. This is backwards. There we go. So, oh, and this is Hultafors. But anyway, Mora, these are super affordable. I can't even remember the price, but I think they're around 20 bucks each or something like that. This one happens to be a Blade HQ exclusive version. This one's called the Mora Clipper. It's in a carbon steel blade, very thin, very good ergonomics. These are just really useful utilitarian blades. You can beat the heck out of them and then, toss it, I guess, if you have to. You can sharpen them, though. They're definitely meant to be used. Anyway, yeah, these are good knives. This is the Mora Robust here. This one comes with a thicker blade stock. These are not full tang. I think they're stick tangs that make it down about halfway or so, usually. Rubberized handles, so good in very cold conditions. I think that's what they're intended for. They're made in Sweden. Yeah, both of my Moras are in carbon steel, so not stainless. They have Scandi grinds, which is good for woodwork, things like that. But you can totally use them for, utilitarian tasks if need be. They're tough, good, affordable knives. Those are my Moras. And then this is the Hultafors chisel knife. I use this one for working around the house, really. This is also in a carbon steel blade made in Taiwan. Very good, comfortable handle. It is not rubberized. It's just an injection molded handle. Yeah, the Mora also makes a chisel knife. I ended up with the Hultafors, and I don't regret it. Dang, I keep using it the wrong way. Yeah, anyway. Hultafors, Mora knife, good, affordable, fixed blade knives. Put these away now. Move on to the next ones. Okay. First, I will show, this is my, I forget what this is called, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, it's a Becker BK16, which is a good I think it's about 4.5 inches. Yeah, 4.5 inch blade. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Yeah, this is 1095 CV, which is kind of like a variation of 1095 that Ka-Bar uses. Ka-Bar manufactures these. They come with injection molded scales, but they make available these they make available these micarta scales for you to buy afterwards. I put the brown micarta on this one. These are good, very useful knives. They're meant to be abused and really, really beat on. They're very thick, thick behind the edge. You can, if you're going to baton with a knife, this would be the kind of knife that you would want to do it with. Something thick, durable like this. And these are proven. The designer, Ethan Becker, is among one of the very best in the world. He's the Becker series from Ka-Bar has been around for a long time. And before Ka-Bar made it, they were being made by a different company. I think it was... I can't remember it, but it was a different knife company, but they've been around for a long time. Next is another Becker knife. This is the Ka-Bar Becker BK9, which is a 9-inch blade. It is massive. This is the Combat Bowie. This thing is massive, man. It's a fantastically cool knife. This one also came with injection molded handle scales, but I put on the black micarta here. Gorgeous knife. It's kind of like, if you know, you know, man. Like these things, they can take a beating. The Becker BK16, I have this Kydex sheath that I had made for it. And then the BK9 came with this nylon like sheath like this, which is fine. It works. Okay, next we will look at this is my LT Wright Genesis. This is in CPM 3V. This is a gorgeous knife. It's a handmade knife, micarta, 3V pinned construction. LT Wright is the best in the business. He's makes them in Ohio. They do pretty much everything by hand. This is like a bushcrafter's kind of dream knife, you know. Very comfy. And it also comes down to a very thin edge. Surprisingly, very thin. But with CPM 3V, it's going to be tough stuff. Like you can really use a knife like this. Comes with this gorgeous JRE Industries leather sheath with the dangler attachment. This is probably my favorite fixed blade. Love this knife. Next is this is the NAFS Large Lulu, which is also made by LT Wright. This thing also comes down to a very thin edge. This is in A2, which is a tool steel, just an ingot formed tool steel. I've tested this stuff. It performs really well, actually. This one has micarta over G10, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a G10 liner, which gives them some stability to the handle, which is useful because it has the pinned construction, so you can't, adjust it if it comes loose later. So it's good that they went with the G10 liner to give it some durability there. Yeah, NAFS is Ben Peterson, much like the Lander folding knife that I have, but this is made in USA by LT Wright. Gorgeous knife, very thin, slicey. A2's good stuff, man. And LT knows what they're doing with A2 because they've been using A2 for a long time on their Genesis models and their Outback. Oh man, I just realized right now I called this the Genesis. This is not the Genesis. This is the Outback, by the way. I'm sorry about that. I used to have a Genesis with a Scandi grind. I let that one go, and to buy this Outback instead, and the Outback stuck around. Oh yeah, sorry about that. Anyway. Yeah, also handmade by LT Wright. Gorgeous knife. Came with a Kydex sheath. Okay, last fixed blade is this. This is my Buck 124 Frontiersman. This is a big knife, man. It's 420 HC stainless steel, hollow grind. 420 HC's good, tough stuff, though. So these have been proven to be able to take a beating. Micarta scales. Excuse me, yeah. Micarta scales, pinned construction, full tang. All of these knives are full tang, by the way. I wish I had said that. All of them are full tang except for the Moras and the Hultafors. Full tang construction is pretty important. It's more durable, less to break, rather than like a stick tang. Yeah, I love this knife. I think it's a beauty. It's kind of a Bowie style knife. Comes with this leather sheath. Gorgeous. One of my favorites. Okay, that is it. That is all I've got for you guys today. That is my entire collection of knives. Well, Not my kitchen knives, of course. I could take those out and spend some more time on that, but I don't know. You guys let me know if you guys want to see my kitchen knives too. I have some good ones. Some Spyderco kitchen knives, some Solingen made stuff. Yeah, I'm sure there's probably a couple things I'm missing here or there. Something that might be in my car or something that I forgot about. But that is the bulk of it. And I think that should give you guys a pretty good idea of the stuff that I'm interested in, the stuff that I'm enthusiastic about with knives. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Did you guys like any of the knives, or do you guys collect the way that I do? Do the things about knives that I like, do you guys also like them? I'd love to talk to you, man. Hit me up on Instagram, or just write a comment or subscribe or something like that. If you guys liked these knives, if you guys like the style of knives that I'm into, I'd love to have you guys here. Subscribe, comment, like, hit me up on Instagram. Once again, this is McSquirgle. Thank you for watching. See you next time.